Hey everyone, Cameron Lowe here, the president of the Association of Professional Ball Players of America, and we are on the All Over the Place podcast where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello, welcome back to All Over the Place, the official podcast of Media Pub Live. I'm your host, Eric Pervosnik, and tonight we're down two, but we've got Christine in the house. Hello, Christine.
Hello.
And Marty and Jim a little earlier in the record part for us tonight. So they if they are going to join us, they're jumping in a little bit later, but we're starting the show. Just me and Christine, and we've got with us a repeat guest here on All Over the Place. She was with us towards the beginning of the show when we launched back in 2022, and she was with us to talk about sportsmanship in youth and high school sports. Dana Pappas, Director of Officiating Services for National Federation of High School Association of Sports. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. It's great to be back on and join the podcast. I'm looking forward to tonight.
And Christine, I got thrown off there with the NFHS. It would be the National Federation of High School Sports.
It's just so it's kind of weird. It's the National Federation of State High School Associations, but then it just pairs down to NFHS. So it's confusing.
The NFHS. Ooh, that might make it easier for me to pronounce. It is a tongue twister just trying to do it once. So we'll just say Federation, or I try to anyway.
That's perfect.
So, Dana, like the first time you were here, we were talking about sportsmanship and returning and resuscitating sportsmanship in youth and high school sports. And here we are about a year and a half later. And just basically give us a rundown from where you're sitting there at the National Federation, improvements and things that, may have taken a back step. Just give us a State of the Union.
Sure. So we're still addressing it. So it's still an issue. Unfortunately, we haven't solved all the problems in the last year, but we're still working on it. We did launch in 2022. We launched our Bench Bad Behavior campaign, and that's been one of our largest initiatives from the National Federation. And it's really geared toward not only getting the word out about changing sportsmanlike behavior, but trying to really change the narrative across all levels. So it's been really interesting to see the number of national governing bodies and state high school associations and local associations and just various outside entities who have actually picked up that toolkit. We have a Bench Bad Behavior toolkit that you can download. It's got PSAs and kind of scripted social media language. And we're allowing the opportunity for groups to co-brand because we're realizing that if we don't get people speaking the same language across all sports, all levels, from the time that kids are 4 years old playing t-ball, then we're always going to be kind of trying to retrain and train, and it's just a kind of a never-ending cycle. So being able to launch that Bench Bad Behavior campaign and kind of giving people a sportsmanship in a box where they can launch it and get the word out as they see fit across their social media platforms and within their organizations has been it's been a really neat thing to watch it develop and grow over the last year and a half.
And any start on this is a good start. And, again, it takes time. And I know that, and I speak, as we mentioned on the show from time to time, I'm a baseball guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm an umpire, and just, other sports, I've done some basketball, I've done some football, and just seeing the behavior from just the stands. And now with this bench bad behavior, is there anything going on to help benches like in the stands bad behavior? What's being done from the parent standpoint?
And that's really what it was geared toward, was more of the spectator behavior. So I don't know if you've seen, the National Association of Sports Officials launched a survey that came out last year, and it was over 36,000 officials across the country, a majority of which were high school sports officials. And one of the questions they asked was about sportsmanship, and they asked if they felt it was getting better, worse, or staying the same. 68% of the officials in that survey said that it was getting worse. The last time they did the survey, which was in 2017, 57% had said it was getting worse. So now we're 11% worse 6 years later, and that's a concern. But the bigger issue is it's an adult problem in a kid's game. So when they asked who was responsible for this unsportsmanlike behavior, and it's really beyond unsportsmanlike, it's that stuff in the stands where it's just getting really very ugly and very personal. It was parents were at about 40%, and then coaches at about 27%. So we're trying to figure out how to give kids the opportunity to participate. And a lot of the behavioral issues are coming from parents, coaches, adults that are involved in the kids' games. So the Bench Bad Behavior campaign was geared toward what's going on in the stands and giving schools, state associations, whomever has that toolkit, some ideas as far as what they can do to educate their parents, and ways that we can make cheering for your kids positive, instead of yelling at the officials or screaming at opponents. When you hear parents yelling at a 14-year-old on an opposing team, you just kind of scratch your head. It's like, that's not what this should be about. So trying to kind of unlearn those behaviors that maybe they've been doing in the stands since their kid was 5. How do we get people to understand that it's just not healthy for sport and it's bad for the kids that are out there?
And I'm glad you brought up the T-ball earlier, because in my umping over the last 19 or so seasons, the younger you get, the worse it is. Football, I've seen that. Basketball, I've seen that. And it's parental behavior, and it trickles down, of course. And I also see it from the coach's standpoint. The coach, and they set the tone.
They do.
And if the coach is going to be yelling at his kids or yelling at the officials, the parents are going to go right along with it. And I haven't had the chance to confirm it yet. I put the word out to fellow officials on social media today. And one of the reports, and if you know it, if you can confirm this or not, but in Tennessee, I learned that if a fan gets it, it's high school, if a fan gets ejected by an administrator or asked to leave by an administrator, the parent gets a $250 fine.
Wow, I had not heard that.
And according to the person who shared that, they're saying this policy is working wonders at the basketball games.
That's good.
So,
and we have a number of states that are definitely doing, if as a parent you get ejected, you can't come back to the next game. And then if you do it again, then you're done for the whole season. So their state associations are really trying to figure out in their way through policy how to address that. And then, making sure that athletic administrators are supported by their principal superintendents, by their athletic handbook, all of that stuff. So a lot of what we're trying to do, we're working a lot with the NIAAA, which is the Athletic Administrators Association. We're working with them to provide some toolkits and help for ADs, because it's a high turnover position. So when you talk to a lot of state associations, they will say that about 30% of their ADs turn over every year. So a lot of times they don't know what they don't know. So we're really trying to provide resources for ADs, for local associations, state associations, individual officials, because this has to be an all hands on deck. If one group fixes their behavior and everybody else is doing the exact same thing, it's just never going to work. So we're really trying to, work with coaches, and the Positive Coaching Alliance has been great with what they're doing, especially in the youth sport climate, with educating coaches as far as their role, and, letting them understand how their behavior does, like you said, it sets the tone. And if you're positive, then everybody else is probably going to be positive. But if you're screaming and negative all the time, then everybody's going to think that that's the expectation for that team. It's all about that team culture and really trying to figure out how to keep it positive.
Right. And I know, and it's also, what was this? Tennessee. It's a policy in Tennessee that an administrator must be at the game. And again, and I'm all about, I'm a federalism kind of guy, but there has to be like a national guideline. And how much authority does NFHS have to do that across?
So the NFHS is a federation by design. So we aren't like the NCAA. We don't have that kind of authority over state associations. So there's 51 state associations. All the states have one plus DC, and they all have their own board of directors, their own set of bylaws, their own policies. What we do is provide some recommended best practices and suggestions. And there's constant conversation among those state associations about what's going on, what's working in other states. So a lot of times when you see, for example, like Texas and New Mexico and a couple of other states have a 2-strike or a 3-strike policy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that has to do with hearing from another state that they're doing it and it's effective, because they're all fighting the same battle. So we definitely we try to provide information to the state associations about what's out there and feedback that we're getting, so that way people can make sound decisions as they're approaching it with their boards of directors or boards of control.
And another problem I've personally had, and again, these things are not just me, it's across the board with all officials that I talk to. Administrators are kind of toothless in a lot of regards. In a couple of situations I've had, there's, like you said, there's parents yelling at a 14-year-old or a 15. I mean, it's a rivalry game. I understand these things, heat of moment. But when you're yelling, "Number 9, you suck," or something to that effect, it's a cringe moment. As judges and umpires, a fan of the game. And you go to the administrators, a lot of admins, they don't want to deal with the headache. They don't want to go into the stands and eject somebody. But at what point can the federation have the power to say, if the admin's not going to do something, what's the next step?
And that's part of the issue as we talk through this. And we had our officials consortiums and a behavior summit and all of these things. And we don't want to put that onus on the officials. We want the officials to be focused on what they're doing on the court, on the field, et cetera. So they can make game side administration aware of issues, but they can't remove them, because I think that just spawns a whole other set of issues. So, sure. What we're trying to do is, through the NIAAA and some of those relationships, just really talk about how administrators have to know that they're supported when they do those things. And it gets sticky when you're in a small town and the fan that you're throwing out is the wife of the school board president or something. I mean, you hear about those things all the time where the AD's like, that's the person that signs my paycheck. And it puts them in an odd predicament. But then, the bigger issue is a lot of the sub-varsity contests, there is no game side administration. So, they'll say, well, the head coach is the designated game side administrator. And I'm like, no, the head coach is coaching the team. So that individual can't be the game side administration and the security plus the coach. You're putting too much on one person. So we're really trying to provide, like I said, we're doing a lot of resource provision, but it is difficult because we want to be able to help athletic directors have the, be empowered to make those decisions and to remove people from the gym when it's getting to that point of where it's just ugly, where it's bad for the game. There's a difference between somebody going, "Oh, come on, ref," and somebody now dressing down a 14-year-old or threatening an official or a coach, and you hear it coming from the stands all the time. It's not, obviously from my desk, I talk a lot about officials, but it's happening to coaches too. And there's a shortage of coaches as well. So it's just getting people in the stands to control what comes out of their mouths. And it's like, how do you do that when you see, issues with authority kind of across the board societally right now? So it's just, is this all a microcosm of what we're seeing in day to day out, with police officers or other authority members?
Social media. Well, I think, again, we can get into the minutia of all this stuff and just in terms of, like ways to take care of things. But I know one of our assigners out here, and who's on he's our region for NFHS as well, advice he gives, and this is something was brought up by Kevin Doherty and Shannon Eason the last time you were here, just clear the stands. I mean, that's one way of effectively. Of course, it can do a flip on you. They get even crazier, but it's a chance you've got to take. But it's just, and it's something that it's unfortunate. It has to become a part of my vernacular at a plate meeting. I cover it legs, lineup, equipment, game, the ground rules, and sportsmanship. And I just have to remind coaches, take care of your dugout, your assistant coaches, and your parents.
Yep. And
they're here to cheer and encourage only, not do your job, not do my partners in my job. Sometimes, and here's the thing. One thing I want to get into, just improvements, and I have seen a little bit in the last year or so, and thank you for the federation getting the bench bad behavior toolkit out there for people, because something's working bit by bit. It's not going to happen overnight.
It's not.
But what kind of improvements have you seen so far with it? Like whether it's state to state or just overall across the country?
The feedback I'm getting is more about officials getting to a point where in some cases they're feeling appreciated a little bit more. And I know that's not necessarily behavioral, but it does show a shift in at least officials being part of the conversation, because Eric, you umpire, you know that sometimes the only time officials are recognized is when they don't show up. It's like, oh yeah, we do need those guys, now they're important. But we've been doing a lot with our officials appreciation weeks, and to get emails from longtime officials, they've been doing it for 25 years, and they're telling me this is the first time anybody's ever thanked me. And on the one hand, I'm like, yay, they got thanked. But on the other hand, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the first time. So, I think that part of the shifting behavior definitely has to do with being able to respect the officials. And part of that respect comes through that recognition of what they're doing, what service they're providing, but also understanding that they are human beings. Officials are just people in your community who care, and they're providing a service for kids that aren't even theirs. So, it's always a frustration when people are so upset with officials and they're not understanding that we're not just handing equipment to people in the parking lot and saying, go work the game. These people are going through training, and they're going to meetings, and they're taking tests, and they care about what they're doing. They don't want to mess up. Yes, they're going to make mistakes, but so is everybody else. So just changing that perception of what the official is and letting people know, especially in our world, we're education-based athletics. We're an extension of the classroom, and trying to emphasize that at all times. The way when you watch high school sports, that behavior should be the same as it is in the math class, because this is an extension of the classroom. We're teaching lifelong lessons, and the officials are learning right along with the kids. So I think sometimes we lose sight of that because people are watching professional sports, and that's a different situation entirely. So applying the fanaticism of professional sports doesn't translate to our level. I mean, you're at a JV game and there's like 4 fans there, and you got to understand what the business is. This is not a multi-billion-dollar industry. This is something where it's kids doing what they love and maybe not going on to the next level. And that's okay, because it's building life lessons. It's keeping them engaged in school and giving a lot of kids the reason why they're going to school and doing well in school is because they have that attachment to sports. So I think that, I don't know that we've seen any dramatic, like, oh my gosh, it's so much better out there, especially because you look on social media and it's like, oh gosh, more about officials assaults. But I think there's been some, individual emails and conversations where you do hear that people are being respected in a way that maybe they hadn't been before as officials. So I'm going to take every positive that I can and chalk it up to a baby step and realize that it's going to, as much as I'm impatient and I want it yesterday, I have to realize that it's not going to happen overnight. It's probably not going to happen in the next year. I just have to be patient and look at those little victories as much as I can.
Yeah, definitely. And while there are still the incidents, it's going to happen. But the pendulum's swinging in the right direction. So thank you for steering some of those from the federation level. And I also want to thank this lovely lady who is to my right on the camera here, and downstairs as it may be from a recording standpoint. But she's the mother of boys who play football, and 2 of them at the high school level. And she's been very proactive and just like reminding people, hey, you know what, if you think you can do better, or I mean, just not in those words, but just, they're looking for good officials if you want to do that. And I appreciate that. And I do hear more about that coming from the stands.
And we need more parents like that. And I think that's what we need to reach. It's not just about stop yelling at the officials. It's about letting parents know that it only takes one person to turn the tide with their crowd. So if you're a parent and you have kids, and those parents that are irritating the coach and the officials are probably irritating all the other parents. And sometimes you have to take that leap and just be like, hey, have you ever thought of officiating? Like, you seem to know a lot or whatever. And it's hard to put that in a very delicate phrasing, sure. But, we're talking a lot about what we can do at the preseason parent meetings and how can we better educate parents about what the expectations are in the stands, especially if they're coming from youth and club strictly, and now they're freshmen in high school and this might be their first exposure to education-based athletics. So really talking through what that looks like and what the expectations are, and that it's less about the wins and losses, because it's about developing those lifelong skills and making the next generation of good young men and women that are going to be doctors and lawyers and librarians and whatever else they're going to be. So I think the more we can hit at those preseason parent meetings and do some education and talk about rules. One of the coolest things that a lot of states are doing is sending their officials out to those preseason meetings to do kind of a rules clinic. No, over the back really is not a foul in basketball, like trying to do some education, because so many times the things that you hear yelled for the stands aren't even rules. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? So I think education, and then it also lets those parents get to know the officials as people. When those stripes are off, it's different. It's like, oh, wow, that person's my neighbor, instead of, oh, person with the stripes, person, it's blue, like whatever, whatever sport it is. So how do we break down some of those barriers? And that's been something that we're really trying to figure out, how to get more involved with the parent aspect so we can help them. Like we don't want them to miss their kids' games because they're getting ejected, but we have to give them the tools to be able to be a successful sport parent. And I know that sounds a little bit silly, but there is an element of that I think we need to continue to kind of hammer home through our state associations, and then with their member schools.
And I believe I brought it up on your last visit here. I got to do it again. I got to give major props to my man, Greg Patrick. Going out to you, Greg. Don't be that parent. Nobody likes that parent. And I add to that, and it's usually your kid who doesn't like you being that parent.
100%. That is so true. If you ask a kid, they are absolutely mortified when it's their parent yelling or their parent getting ejected. And you think that you're helping, but it's not okay. And your kid is embarrassed. Like, don't, if you're angry at the official, if you're angry at the coach, don't take it out on the kids that are out on the floor or field. And that's what's happening, because it's a distraction from the game. This should be fun. This should be educational. It should be all of these really good things. And then we're having to pause because the fan in row 9 has lost his or her mind. It's just like, that's not the setting that we want in education-based athletics.
And I love the fact you brought up. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Christine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes the chatter in the stands kind of gets out of control, especially like you said, some of those rivalry games and things like that. But I mean, it's great when the ADs or the coaches. I mean, we do typically get those emails from them that remind the parents what's appropriate and how to act. Although we did have a particularly troubling situation last season in the high school where we actually got an email that encouraged parents to not go to a particular game because of a situation that had happened the previous week at a football game. They were telling people not to go to a girls' volleyball game. And I messaged the coach and I was like, what does this have to do with the girls' volleyball? I'm like, you can send people to that school because something bad happened at the football game. I'm like, come on. Why don't we just instead tell the people like how they're supposed to be acting and remind them, Yeah,
that's probably not the right approach. I don't know.
So yeah,
that's one of those emails you're going, what am I reading right now?
Yeah, I know. It was one of those things where I was like, really? Like, I don't even have any daughters, but I was like, I feel bad for those kids. Like, they're telling people not to go to their game.
Why are they being penalized? Like, what?
Exactly. So I think it's just, remembering, I'm no authority on anything, but just, everybody's learning and everybody's just trying to do their best. And yeah.
And one of the things I like, this also came in this week. Honig's Sporting Goods sent out a note. The reps has a display or interactive display going on at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, right there in the heart of where the Federation is based, and it's allowing people to get at this display to see the game through the eyes of the officials, to educate them. It's basketball, but I mean, I think just like you mentioned, Dana, just educating people to what the referee's experience is. And I
It's
think
not,
that
it's
goes
not
a
as
long
easy
way.
as it looks. And so RefReps has been, we work with them quite extensively with an educational partnership agreement with them. And what they're doing is transformative. They have a curriculum. They're in 32 different states right now where they're in high schools and are working with state departments of education to make sure that kids are getting either PE credit or VOTEC credit for learning how to be an official. And it's POV. It's very, technology oriented, which is great for today's learner. Some of us that are a little older shy away from that a bit, but what they're doing with the POV technology and really letting people see what it looks like. What are the officials looking at on a baseball field, on a football field, on a soccer pitch when they're out there in their position, and how do you make the call? So this exhibit, which I'm super excited about for RefReps, is a kind of a you make the call. And of course, with the NBA All-Star Weekend happening in Indy this weekend, it ties right in with that. But RefReps, Kyle Armstrong and Mark Baltz have been amazing to work with. And the things that they're doing are just so cutting edge. And the fact that there's a lot of school districts that are now pairing it with like on the court, on the field instruction, as well as just giving people this opportunity to basically learn a trade and learn all these life skills. But then they're able to get a job. And earlier this week, I actually received a email from a parent who was talking about her son's experience as an official. And she was thanking me, the world, for having these courses available and allowing youth to officiate. And she goes, this is the best first job he could have had. And she went on talking about just the different skills he's acquired. And I'm like, can I like copy paste this and send this out to parents everywhere? Because it was so good and he loves it so much. And he's like 14 years old. So when you hear about kids kind of getting that bug to officiate that early, it gives you some hope that, we're short, but maybe we've got that next generation coming in. And these are people who are learning officiating from, the bottom rung and just, learning it through technology, but also through being out there. And I can't thank RefReps enough for what they're doing, because they saw the problem and found a really, an amazing solution. When I was first shown the product, I was just, my mind was blown. I was like, this is so good, because it's a full curriculum. I mean, it's the coolest thing, just to kind of go in and play around with it and see what kids are doing. And they're getting high rates of people saying, you know what, I want to be an official. Like over 80% of the people taking the classes want to officiate. And that's a great number. So now it's our job to figure out how to keep them interested, how to retain them once they're in, because that's certainly sometimes a bigger battle than getting them in. It's keeping them in.
And a lot of that has to do with the parents getting on kids. I mean, you're yelling at a kid who was a first year umpire or ref or whatever it is. It's like, really?
Yes,
that. And no offense to my dad and his awesome asphalt seal coating business. That was my first job when I was 14. I wish I would have had the opportunity to get into some kind of sports officiating. But Christine, her two boys, and just one of them now, is, what's your experience been like, Christine, with Luke taking the refereeing torch?
Well, actually, since I've been with Eric for the last year, he's the one that actually educated my boys about that it was a possibility. I don't think that it was even anything that they would have considered without him mentioning it to them. And since then, I think Shannon Easton loves my son now, because she's brought him probably about a good 10 officials for football in the area here.
I tell you, it's a great way to make money. You're 15, 16 years old. You're making $60 a game sometimes.
Seriously, it's good stuff.
For them, like you said, it is the best first job that they could possibly have. And, for me as a parent, granted they're driving 25 miles away to do it, which in this area we're like, not sure if I'm all totally down with him driving that far, but it's a great job. And it's, something that he can do and something that, like you said, that he could carry with him into the future. And it's just a great skill to have. And honestly, now after having him do that, seeing him on the sidelines with his high school now, where he's a lot of times standing next to the coach or somebody you can almost see him watching from an officiate's, from an official's view. And a lot of times he's kind of whispering. And I've seen him actually get on trouble on the field once or twice because he turned and said something to the official.
He's like,
but
"Oh,
okay, he's trying.
And that, we're hearing a lot of that. Kyle from Ref Reps has a lot of those stories where kids are like helping their teammates. The teammate will be mad because the official throws a flag, and the kid's going, no, that's the right call because he's been through the class. So that educational component, and then kind of the healthy byproduct is, even if they decide not to officiate, all of these kids that Kyle's talking to are going, at least I can understand what the official's going through. And they're more empathetic to what officials experience night in and night out. And I think even if they don't sign up, there's some repair being done. I think that having somebody who can kind of be an ally to the officials on a team is important. And, Christine, you said something that is so true. Kids aren't told about the opportunity to officiate. When they're athletes, they're thinking about their next step will be either playing or coaching. They're not thinking about officiating. And we're really trying to figure out how do we get the word out? Because like Eric said, he would have started much earlier had he known about it. My husband says it all the time. He was a coach for his career. And he's like, I really wish somebody would have told me at 18 to officiate instead of coach. So how do we educate them about this being a viable pathway and a viable option? And it's the only way you can stay an athlete well into your 60s or 70s in some case. Like you can't play football for 30 years, but you can officiate it for 30 years. So I think that there's just letting kids know that it's available and using the coaches in that regard, like, having coaches talk to kids about this might be a good fit for you. Like, the rules, you're competitive. There's all of these qualities that you have that would make you a really good official. And coaches know we're short, and they see that we're getting progressively older collectively as an officiating population. Average age across the country is right around 58 across all sports. And
still coming in under. All right.
I don't want to say you're below average. I think you're well above average, but I guess we're talking two different things. But just being able to understand that the officials are aging and the kids are always 15 to 18. They're always going to be the same age, and getting coaches to help us with their athletes as far as kind of selling the avocation a little bit, and hearing from parents like Christine who are, you're seeing some maturation in your kids because of what they're doing and the responsibility that they have as officials. So when I get emails from some random parent that I have no idea who she is, and all she could do is talk about how great officiating is, I'm like, I need to give this lady a microphone and just let her give her testimonial, because it was touching. It was exciting. It was just like, okay, she gets it. And I'm like, she needs to be the spokesperson. So it is a good avenue for kids. Really,
I'll kick in some bucks for that one to get her a platform. I'll do that. That's great.
Love it.
Is that perhaps just in Indianapolis, or is it nationwide?
It's nationwide. So they're headquartered here. So they're actually in Indiana, not necessarily Indianapolis. I think they're in Brownsburg, Indiana is kind of their point of origin, but they are in 32 different state associations right now. And they're shaking things up, and it's been a much needed shakeup within the officiating industry. And they're really being embraced by, vendors and NASO and all of these entities who are understanding that what they're doing is critically important. And they're doing, they're developing things for officials by officials. They have officials on their staff who know what would be a good mechanism for training and who can continue to enhance and grow the program. So it's just been, they're still pretty young. I think they're less than 2 years old. And to see the strides they've made in that time just shows that, first of all, there was a need. And secondly, what they're doing is quality. It's a good product. So, the NFHS, we're excited to see them grow, because we know that it benefits all of us. It benefits all 51 state associations, because they're helping to breed the next generation, which is really exciting, because for a long time there was a lot of movement in that area.
I love hearing this. And also, I want to give a shout out to two organizations out here in the Phoenix area, whether it's the Umpire Training Institute and also, top choice officials. They're training younger kids. And I'm running into more kids on the baseball field that, oh yeah, I umpired. I'm like, awesome. That's why, again, they just don't. And I tell these kids, play as long as you can. You love baseball, play as long as you can, get as high as you can, level wise. But then when you're done, if you still love it, either be a coach or be an official. Just keep that love of the game going.
Officiating is always going to be there for you. It's always an option. Like if you play and you go well into professional baseball or whatever sport, it's still going to be there. I mean, the guy that was the umpire on the Super Bowl on Sunday was a former NFL player. So after he was
actually a former Penn Stater. Yes,
yes, he was.
Marty, I catch crap on here whether I mention the replacements or I mention Penn State. I don't care. That was an accident, folks. That was not planned. That we got to get through.
Man, I set him up. You knock him down, man. I love it. So it's just
a baseball player, always a baseball player. Put it on a tee, I'll take it.
It's just such a good way to stay involved in a sport. And Eric, you said something about you make good money, and I think for a long time we've shied away from talking about that because we know that largely officials in high school sports are not doing this for the money. But when you're talking to a 16-year-old kid and they could go umpire, 6 youth baseball games on a Sunday or Saturday and walk out with $200, that's a pretty good gig. So I think we've shied away from it, but we also need to understand that it's okay to be paid for things that you're good at and that you love. I mean, it's completely okay. So I think at that youth level, it's particularly important. And I know officials who have paid for their kids' college tuition with the money they've made from officiating. They'll save it for 18 years. Their kid graduates and now they're paying for college. And it's just like, that's pretty noble. It's such a good avocation. And there's that officiating family and there's so much good about it. And I think that part of the changing the behavior is really flipping the script about officials and letting people know all of the good stuff. We know the bad stuff. We know the behavior. We know that there's assaults. We know that there's some bad stuff, but 95% of it's really, really good. So we need to talk more about that and really, emphasize why people are doing this and celebrate those individuals that are sacrificing their time, time away from their family, time away from their real jobs to go provide a service for other kids. And I just think that the more we can do that, it kind of inherently helps to shift the pendulum a little bit.
Yeah, again, it comes back to what we mentioned earlier. Just you educate people about something that they just don't have a lot of knowledge about. Things, it bridges a gap. People just can understand each other a little bit better. So, and it's for me, it was a hobby that paid and turned into a passion. And now and you just try and plant the seed on some of these kids. And it's a lot of fun watching the ones where it takes.
Oh, for sure.
You just know that, I'm going to play as long as I can. I'm a state champ now or whatever it is. And just keep going. It's fun.
And we're focusing on youth because we need to bring them in, but then we also want to focus on the people like you, Eric. You've been doing this, and your role as a mentor can't be underestimated and underappreciated. We really have to focus on those kids need those mentors as they come in, and not just kids. If it's a 45-year-old who's coming into officiating for the first time, they need a mentor too. And we talk about retention so much, and the best way to retain is through mentorship. You can't just have people come out and throw them to the wolves with no guidance. You have to have somebody who's going to, hold their hand a little bit through the process and let them know not just about the balls and strikes and the blocks and charges and all of those things. They have to understand, what does it really mean to be an official? Where do I buy my uniform? What do I need to go to meetings? What all is entailed? Because when people come in and they don't know which questions to ask, they kind of get lost in the process a little bit. So people like you, Eric, you're integral in this process because you're helping that next generation. You're helping your eventual replacement when you decide to hang it up. And I think that there's a special part of officiating. It's like it gives you a little bit of immortality because you're seeing the people that you've imparted wisdom on carrying on the things that you did. And I think that's special, that you can kind of build that legacy for yourself and for your association, and really affect change. And I don't think we talk enough about that.
Well, thank you again. It's my pleasure. I'm blushing right now a little bit, folks. But yeah, it's again. I just enjoy doing it. I love the game of baseball. I love whether it's Christine's son Luke. He loves football. Whatever sport you're going to do, just dive in, have some fun. It's a game. Have fun.
Yes, fun.
And I was 38, 39 when I started seriously doing this. I had Dennis Roy, Glenn Stillenbauer, Joe back in Burbank. I had Stephen Beersley. That was a shout out to those guys for just seeing something in me. And yeah, just passing that down as much as you can and just letting people know.
And you just did something that's also important. You recognize your mentors. We can't forget who got us there. And that happens too often where people think that they're kind of self-made. And I'm like, someone helped you along the way. There may be a prodigy or two out there, but for the most part, somebody helped you along the way. Somebody saw something in you. Somebody took you by the hand and showed you the ropes. And we have to continue to, we're not only preparing the next generation, but we have to continue to appreciate and recognize and honor our past. Because if we don't, then we're going to lose sight of the foundation that was built for us. And that causes a whole other set of problems. So I love that you talked about the young ones coming in, and then you gave a shout out to your mentors, which is awesome.
Thank you for doing that. Kids, I see a good play in the field. I tell them, look, that was awesome. I don't have favorites out here, but I got to give credit where it's due.
Love it.
For all those guys, whether it's the ones I'm helping or maybe to inspire or the ones who helped inspire me. Absolutely. Always credit where it is. Keep that pendulum swinging in the right direction, folks, because it's fun. Anyway, I get all goofy and crazy.
You gave me goosebumps just talking about the fun. Like I got all excited. You're pumping me up here, Eric.
And no, I got to give credit to my mother on this one too. It's a game. You go out there. I don't say, I say play ball. I don't say work. I don't say, whine. Play ball. But just quickly before I forget, I threw the word out that you're going to be coming on the show and at the NFHS umpire page. I want to give a shout out to Jerry Larkin. I want to do my best to get his question down just right. I mean, we covered a little bit of this earlier, but Jerry, his main thing is, and we're told as sports officials, whether it's baseball or any basketball, football, you ignore. For us, we've got a fence between us and baseball, of course. But the people in the stands, just we're told to ignore them as much as possible. But and as the situation, we don't talk to them, it kind of emboldens fans, is what Jerry's saying. And just game administrators are our only official resource to calm down overly vocal fans. But aside from what we've talked about, just like from different states doing certain things, but does NFHS, Jerry's asking, have any plans or models or initiatives in place or on the horizon to improve the presence of administrators and require and motivate them to just enforce sportsmanship in the stands?
Sure. And a lot of that goes back to the playbook that we've devised, and it's got sections for basically the role of everybody in an athletic event. And it talks about, as the athletic administrator or the game side administrator, here are the things that you're responsible for. And it gives some practical tools as far as what's expected. We've presented that to all of the state associations so that way they can develop policy around that. So there's a lot of state associations that do require a game side administrator for all levels of sport. Others only have it for varsity. So really talking about, yes, it's required. Here's what you can do. Here's how you'll be supported as an athletic administrator, because if you don't have an administration that really is going to back you with regard to removing fans, ending the game, whatever it is, based on how severe the action is, people are going to shy away from taking action. So, we're just working on helping states to see what's recommended and give them maybe some templates as far as verbiage and those sorts of things. But, we're more of, again, we're providing resources, but we're seeing a lot of states that are taking action, which is great. So, they're really invested in it. And I think because state associations are doing such a great job in educating their schools within their state associations about what their role is, and then tying in our relationship with the NIAAA has been really helpful, because they're starting to put more in some of their educational components and courses and resources for ADs. So we're trying to give them more support, because that's really what athletic directors need. You know, a lot of schools don't have somebody who their full-time job is AD. They're usually teaching a few classes, and they might be coaching, and they're, you know, a dean of discipline in some cases. So we're trying to give them more that's easily digestible, that they can utilize and implement, because we know that their plates are overflowing. So we, over the past couple of years, as we've rolled out our consortiums and the Bench Bad Behavior campaign, a lot of the focus has been, how can we be of support to our athletic directors? How can we be of support to our state associations, to our officials, and asking them, what do you need from us? Because there might be something that we think it's one thing, and it might be something very different. So we're very open to feedback as far as tools that we can help provide every part of the interscholastic family. So it's been exciting to see that evolve over the past couple of years as well.
Love it. Well, Jerry Larkin, thank you for throwing that question out for us. And Dana, thank you again for, with the bench bad behavior, the toolkit, everything that you're doing at your level as the director of the officiating for the Federation. It's awesome. And Christine, over to you.
Yeah. Before we let you go, Dana, I heard that we were in a non-competition last year. Apparently you and your husband are huge concert goers.
I think they beat us by 4 or 5 shows.
Yeah, I think you beat us by 4 or 5 shows. But yeah, I just wanted to, comment or, have a quick discussion about music.
Oh, I love it. Yes, huge music fan.
Hang on, let me put my concert shirt on.
Yes, I can actually go to last year.
I gotta go change. We went to 43 shows last year, and this year we were like, we're gonna pump the brakes. That was stupid. What were we thinking? And we just
no, it was not stupid.
Okay, thank you.
Make up for.
We fully
never apologize for going to live music.
Love this. And we just bought today tickets for our 23rd show of this year, and I was like, I thought we were backing off. So we're now I'm going.
You're 2 months in. I love it.
I know. So now my thought, because I'm super competitive, is, do we try to beat last year? Because 2 years ago we were at like 38. So when we beat it last year, I was like, all right. And now this year I'm like, do I try to go below or above? But that competitive juice in me is going, got to beat it, got to go over 43. So yes, love live music. The thing I love the most about it is you can go, and there are people of every walk of life living in the moment and enjoying it, and nothing else matters except for the band on the stage. And it's one of the most unifying, beautiful things that you could be a part of. And you can sing along, you can dance like a fool. No one cares. It's like no judgment. And over the years, we've developed this music family from across the country that we're all on Facebook, and hey, what shows are you going to? And being able to see them and give them a hug when we're at the same show. It's so cool. Like, I get two things I love more than anything: officiating and live music. And it's just, I get the same thrill out of both of them. So maybe we can all go to a show together. That would be awesome.
I think we should. I definitely think we should.
Well,
it's on the calendar.
Well, just very quick, I want to jump on. You're already what? You said 23rd this year. For me, the concert slate is not as impressive this year, and this is. Okay, fine. I wanted to go see REO Speedwagon had they been with Styx, but they're playing with Train. I couldn't care 2 bits about Train. I realize the lead singer's from my hometown of Erie. I don't care. Train sucks in my book. I said it. We'll get some Train hate mail. I don't care. Erie, PA, not representing. But anyhow, I just don't see as many, and kudos to you. Like, who are you going out to see? I mean, like, who are we missing out?
So we're going to a bunch of this year. I think the biggest difference for us is we're going to a lot of the small venue shows here in Indianapolis, and there's a couple of artists that we've never seen live, but we've listened to them on Spotify, and I'll see an ad that they're coming to the Vogue in downtown Indy, so I'll check them out on Spotify, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I would see them live. And the cool thing is, the tickets are like $18. I'm like, bonus. I didn't have to go through Ticketmaster. So sorry if there's people who love Ticketmaster.
Hey, we've already pissed off Train tonight. Go after Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
Let's just keep throwing bombs.
That's right.
but we're seeing a lot of small venue shows. And then there's a number of, we did get tickets for Justin Timberlake. He was one of our, so we always talk about our top 5 favorite live shows, and he's in the top 5, along with Pink is in there, and Garth Brooks and Bruno Mars. I'm trying to think of, I keep forgetting our 5th. I guess it wasn't that good, but so we talk about those live shows that are just, mind blowing, where you're like, what did I just see? They're just amazing. But we're almost steering away from the stadium shows a little bit and going smaller venue. White River State Park, that's right next to my work, actually, they have a really good lineup coming this year. So we're seeing Ripe is coming. We'll see Ripe twice this year. We're seeing him at Red Rocks in Morrison, Colorado, which is my favorite concert venue in the world. So I'm pumped. Like, it's going to be another good concert season, and not scaled down like we thought, but whatever. It's what we like.
Yeah, I think we found a meeting spot. That Christine and I,
There
we both christened ourselves in the waters of Lake Red Rocks last year. So,
I love it.
No Minnetonka, Lake Red Rocks, but yeah, that's we checked it off our list, but we want to go back.
So what did you see at Red Rocks?
Jason Isbell.
Oh, so jealous. We're seeing him at White River this year. It's awesome, but it's not Red Rocks.
Well, see, I was supposed to see him. He was slated to play in 2020, and of course, we all know what happened then. Don't want to get into any of that again. But I'm like, going back, he's there, got tickets, and Christy and I we're both huge U2 people.
I love it.
Artie's not here. We can talk about our U2 love without being shamed, Christine.
Yeah, that's right.
Shamed. One of our co-hosts likes to give Christine crap about the Irish stuff, but about U2. But no, but
rude.
I know, but
what's
fifth row,
actually
center
funny
stage.
is that we bought those tickets to go to Red Rocks when we'd only been dating for like 2 weeks. So we were like, well, we'll either be going together or we won't. So.
Or we'll be sitting next to each other, not together.
And here we are, almost a year later, removed from that show. So
I love it.
There will be many more Red Rocks in our future. I'm certain of it.
I love that. Well, yes. So I think our plan for the 4 of us, Ed's in the other room somewhere, but the 4 of us need to figure out a show that we all want to go to. We need to meet up because I've never met you in person, but I feel like we know each other and we're friends. And I'm
jealous of you, like Indianapolis, and I just love you. Go to Pittsburgh, you go because it's not too far from you.
Yeah,
you're Chicago, St. Louis. I'm
Columbus, Cincinnati, and that's the thing. We're going to shows in like Lexington, Louisville, Cincinnati, Chicago. We've got shows everywhere this year, so we're at. That was the difference. Living in Albuquerque, it was like I got to drive 6 hours to go to Denver or 6 hours to Phoenix. So we didn't get out as much. Living here, we're like 3 hours. That's a there and back. People from the Midwest think that we're crazy because we will go to a concert and drive back from Cincinnati. And I'm like, we're from New Mexico. Like, that's down the block. It's 2 hours away. Like, so it's expanded our range quite a bit, which has been awesome.
What was our trip? Our biggest one last year, Christine. Well, we drove to see Peter Gabriel in Palm Springs.
Yes,
so that was
Palm Springs. But we
4 or
stayed
5 hour
overnight
trip
when we went there.
Yeah.
How was that show?
Oh my
Peter
gosh,
Gabriel.
it was so unbelievable. It was so good.
That's my favorite album of last year, and the tour did not disappoint. It's Peter Gabriel. It's my first time.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool. Oh my gosh, love live music. I'm so excited.
Well, actually, here's one. This is one of the ones with I can't remember the name of the festival. It's the one that they did last year. It's an alternative rock festival, like from 80s, 90s alt rock bands. But Interpol is going to be playing it. It's at the Rose Bowl.
Cruel World.
Cruel World. It's the Cruel World Festival.
That's the big one that we want to go to in May.
Okay.
May 11th.
Jesus and Mary Chain. I think Duran is going to be added too. Is that
so
unbelievable, Dana? It's amazing.
So all the bands we grew up on, sounds like.
And I just found out today, Psychedelic Fur is going to be becoming the celebrity here, opening for them, John Doe and Exene from X. So I'm like,
that's pretty cool.
Well, because Christine and I last year we saw Psych Furs with Squeeze.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I bet that was awesome.
It was a great show.
Trip down memory lane for sure. Like,
oh, that was a good night. Yeah.
I love those nostalgic shows where I feel both young and old all in one show. I'm like, oh, I remember this. And I'm like, oh my God, my knees hurt. Like, it's just, it's awesome and sad all at the same time. But
so we got to sit in an Epsom salt bath when we get home. Whatever.
Right. Yeah. When you're at a concert where you have to stand the whole time and then you're like, oh my God, my back is, my knees. I'm like, really, that's where we are in our lives. But
on that note,
we'll take it.
going back to Peter Gabriel. Christine and I love the new album, and because he was releasing a new song every month last year. We go and people were sitting down for the majority of the show. Should that be but they're trying to shame us. Shouldn't we have been shaming them?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Like the only time you really sit at those is if it's a ballad. I think it's okay to sit then because it's like, okay, this is slow. I can sit and absorb the music. But if everyone's standing and enjoying it, just stand up. Be a sport. Come on. Have fun. It's just like officiating. It's fun. Get in there.
Well, Peter Gabriel, the average fan, older than we are. So I don't know if they had multiple Epsom salt baths they had to take when they got home. But either way, I'm standing at a show for the most.
Pop some ibuprofen. Power through. Like, come on.
Christine, we got to figure it out. We need to party with Dana and her husband. We're going to do it.
That's right. We will.
And for me, partying means I go to the show and then I'm like, I can still get in bed before 11. So I'm like pretty.
Well, I guess that Nick's is the next one because I'm going to be heading to Vegas to see Iron Maiden in the fall.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you want to get in the pit, we'll be home by 11. We're back to the hotel by 11, but it's Maiden.
I feel like in the pit with Iron Maiden at my age, I'm probably coming out with a broken hip. Like I'm pretty sure.
Actually, we were perilously close to the pit last year for Royal Blood, and that almost got out of hand.
Okay, man, y'all are tough. I kind of shy away from the pits. I'm 5'4". My husband's 6'3". So when we go to shows, I sometimes just kind of drown in the crowd. I'm like, all I'm doing is looking at shoulders, and he's 6'3", so he's all in the fresh air. And he's looking around. He's like, I can see everything. I'm like, I can see this guy's shoulder blades. So I get a little claustrophobic when I'm in the crowd. I have to be very strategic about where I stand. I'm like, I can't see anything. I can hear, and that's all I really care about. But there's no fresh air down here. I'm like, it's just sweaty.
And not to embolden us, Annie, but the mosh pit found us. We didn't go looking for it.
Yes, it was all around us, and we were kind of like.
You're like, okay, I got head on a swivel at this point. Like, what is happening around you? Oh, I love it. The three of us could talk for the next 7 hours.
We could, but I definitely
music.
You're welcome. You're welcome on all over the place anytime, Dana. I want to thank you again once again for everything, all the initiatives that you're steering with the federation to make not just baseball but all sports across the board, making it just more of that fun experience that these kids. And I got to stress it again, folks. Most of these kids do not go on to the next level.
That's correct.
I think baseball was the highest one, and that was a low 7% one. Go on to the next level. They're there to learn sportsmanship. They're there to learn teamwork, and let them have fun. It's a game.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's an honor to work with officials and be a small part of a great, huge family that's across the country and across the world as far as officials go. And I appreciate what you all are doing to help get the word out about sportsmanship and about the great parts of officiating. And I really appreciate you, and I appreciated my time tonight. And the live music chat was a bonus, so thank you for that.
Next time around, we're going to do more music and less officiating.
We can do a whole show about live music. I'm in.
Do live music.
We do it regularly.
You know what? As soon as we get some more I'm kind of embarrassed. Christine and I have not seen a show since November.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's bad. It's pretty bad.
I'm tapping the arm here right now. We got to get something soon.
Yes, go to a show. You guys are in like the Phoenix area. Go to there's little theaters everywhere. Go see a local show. Doesn't even matter who. Just go. I'm telling you, you got to get it back in your veins.
All right, we're heading down to the Rebel Lounge. That's where we're going next.
Okay,
it's still early for you guys. It's almost my bedtime, but you
7 o'clock. Yeah,
you crazy kids go out. Yeah. So next time we'll do a live music show. I'll bring Ed, and the four of us can just talk live music for as many hours as you'd like.
Sounds like a plan.
Love it.
Deal. All right. Well, again, Dana from National Federation of High School Sports. Thank you so much for joining us here on All Over the Place. Christine, thank you for being here. Awesome time here on the show. And we'll be back on All Over the Place real soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.
The
The opinions expressed by the guests are theirs and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the producer.
The word funsanity, and like Eric said, it is made up, so we get it, but
I like made up words. I like it. I'm going to use that every day now in some
you
way,
go.
shape, or form. I'll insert it.
I knew I should have copyrighted it.